And we're in. I'm Frannie Kuiper.
And I'm Rose.
And I did bring a soda to crack, but it exploded everywhere, so I had to restart the recording.
Yeah, it pressed the mute button.
The soda literally exploded so hard that it pressed the mute button on the call. Okay. My topic today, or my mystery, as some might say, is Project MKUltra.
I'm so excited. I don't know anything about this, but I wish that I knew about this
Okay.
because I keep hearing about it, but I don't. So I'm so excited for you to
Very
present it to
excited.
me.
Okay, so, Rose, have you heard
Yes.
of this little TV show called Stranger Things?
Yes.
Okay. So you know how 11 is like part of this secret government project where they're like using like drugs and hypnosis and stuff to make
Yeah.
superpowered secret agents?
Yes.
So that is based off of this real life project that actually happened called Project MK Ultra. It ran from 1950 to 1973, although some people think it never ended, which I'll get
Oh,
to
a
later at
mystery.
the end, yes. And the topics included in the project are chemical and biological weapons, hypnosis, ESP, prostitution, child abuse, New Age
Oh.
spirituality, and then bold underlined torture.
Oh no. Who did this project?
The US government.
The US government.
Yes. And maybe other governments, we don't know. The goal of the project was the
Okay.
complete and total conquest of the human mind. Exciting stuff. I was waiting for you to respond. You're just like
That's fine.
enraptured.
I am enraptured.
Okay. My first source for this was a 4 hour long video essay called the MK Ultra Iceberg from a YouTube channel called We're in Hell.
Okay. Shout out
So
to
that was
shout
kind of
out the
my jumping
sources.
off
Shout
point.
out We're in Hell on YouTube.
Shout out We're in Hell on YouTube. That was kind of my jumping off point. Gretchen actually just watched that video by herself, and then we were hanging out and she was like, I watched this video essay and it was so good. And then I hung out with her and I watched a little bit of it. And then I was like, wow, this is really interesting.
Wow.
So
I'm so excited to learn about this.
that was kind of my first like jumping off point, but it had a lot of other sources kind of included in it, and then I had other questions and stuff. Stop playing with your camera. Some other sources are a few books. One, Poisoner in Chief by Stephen Kinzer, The Search for
Okay.
the Manchurian Candidate by John Marks, and The Shock
Okay.
Doctrine by Naomi Klein.
Okay.
And then, other than that, my sources are a bunch of CIA documents and memos and stuff. Most of
Real
the
ones?
documents. Sorry?
Real ones? Did you
Yes,
look at them with your own eyes?
I did. I did.
That's crazy.
Most of the documents relating to the project were destroyed in the 70s, but we still have like more than enough to get an idea of what was going on in the project, which is
Okay.
kind of crazy. So,
That is crazy.
during the Cold War, the Soviet Union was releasing these videos of show trials where people would admit to crimes, priests would renounce their faith, and people would act just very compliant. It was very odd. And the Korean military also released similar tapes of American POWs admitting to war crimes. Now, some people think that these people were being blackmailed, being tortured. The CIA was sure that it was communist hypnosis. And because they thought that their enemies were creating mind controlled secret agents, the US decided that they would try and do it too. Now, it's
Oh.
not unprecedented for the US to kind of like copy stuff from other militaries like this.
Yeah.
During World War II, the Japanese military was experimenting and using biological weapons. And the US was thinking, it's bad that they're doing that, so we should try and do it too. Because every government because every government thinks that they need to get one step ahead of the bad guys, and then everybody just ends up being the bad guys,
Yeah.
in my
Wait,
opinion.
so there were governments showing videos of people admitting to crimes. And
Mm-hmm.
people were like, this is weird. It's probably coercion. And then the US was like, this is weird. It's probably magic.
Well, communist hypnosis.
Okay, got it.
So, Ira Baldwin, remember that name? was the guy who was in charge of the U.S. Chemical and Biological Weapons Unit. That was kind of copying some of these ideas from Japan. And
Okay, I've heard of them before.
that was called Camp Diedrich.
Okay.
Heard of that?
No.
Okay, cool. So in that project, they were experimenting with bioweapons, including anthrax, botulism, and a new version of the bubonic plague with a nearly
awesome.
100% death rate.
Oh my god.
Yep. The project also included fun field trips. One time they snuck into the one time they snuck into the Pentagon to spray fake bacteria everywhere.
Why?
Because just to kind of see if they could do it, I would think, because the Pentagon has like high security. So if they were gonna do it in some other country, they would need to like get into the like capital and stuff. So they did it at the Pentagon, and they just used fake bacteria just to see if they could do it.
Okay.
And then another experiment or field trip that they did was that they released real bacteria all over San Francisco, and 11 people got UTIs and 1 person died.
Oh my god. How evil.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I was gonna be like, oh my god, I'm so surprised, but I'm actually surprised because that's insane.
Yeah, it is.
We live in such a weird world.
Yeah. So that was what the chemical biological weapons unit was doing during World War II.
Camp Diedrich?
Yes, but the US military was like, it's great that you're doing all that. Like, it's really great that you're doing all that, but maybe instead of giving people UTIs, we could work on this other thing called the A-bomb, which is a lot more efficient with killing people at like high rates. So Camp Diedrich kind of got their thunder stolen, and they had a choice, which was either to give up or to find a new niche to fill. And I think we can all guess which one they chose to do.
Listen, you have to niche down.
So remember Ira Baldwin, okay? Mm-hmm. Put a pin in that.
Okay, I wrote it down.
Now we're gonna talk. Okay, that's awesome. Now we're gonna talk about the creation of LSD. Albert Hofmann was a Swiss chemist working for Sandoz Pharmaceuticals. And in 1938, he was messing around with ergot compounds, and the 25th combination he tried was called lysergic acid diethylamide, or LSD-25. And he really felt that was a promising combination. He really liked that one, but it didn't really end up going anywhere at the time. But 5 years later, he hadn't been able to stop thinking about it, so he decided to test it again. And when he was synthesizing it, he started tripping. And he was really scared, and he didn't know what was going on because nobody had ever tripped before.
Because he was the first person to ever have LSD.
Yes. And he figured out that he must have ingested it by accident, which is crazy. Because for him to not notice that he ingested it, it had to have been such a small amount, but it still gave him crazy hallucinations. LSD is so powerful. Like, I think that the recommended dose is like 1/100th of a gram, I'm pretty sure, is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
So the next day he tried it again, and that was April 19th, 1943 at 4:20 p.m.
Nice.
And that was how LSD was basically born.
Beautiful.
And the following
year...
Yeah, it's just a baby. The following year, the CIA caught wind of that, and they were like, wow, this is going to be great for a weapons testing project. And thus was created Project Bluebird.
Okay.
So Project Bluebird was the first iteration of Project MKUltra. It was a covert mission by the CIA and SOD, which is like a division within Chemical Corps. And the goal was to research new, unethical interrogation techniques. That wasn't like what they wrote, but like that was what it was. And it was led by this guy named Alan Dulles. Now
I remember him.
Yes. Now we're going to talk about Alan Dulles. So the Dulles family was very connected to the U.S. government. Both Alan's uncle and his grandfather were secretaries of state. I wrote his brother is an airport because his brother is who the Dulles airport and I think Texas. I'm not sure, but his brother has an airport named after him. So Alan was very interested in psychology, and specifically, he was really deeply obsessed with controlling people's minds. Specifically, even more specifically, mind-controlled assassins. This was the guy running Project Bluebird. Until in January 2nd of 1951, he was appointed Deputy Director of Plans of the CIA, which meant he was in charge of special research, which means weapons research, which was basically all the CIA was doing at the time. So he was pseudo in charge of the CIA. He was kind of in charge of the CIA because he was in charge of the most important projects that they were
Is this Alan Dulles?
Alan Dulles, yes.
Okay.
But because he was promoted to this job, he needed someone to take over for him as the leader of Project Bluebird. Remember Ira Baldwin?
Yes.
He had retired at this point, but he still had a lot of sway within the CIA, and he recommended his former protege, Sidney Gottlieb, for the job of director of Project Bluebird.
Sidney.
At this time, Sidney Gottlieb was living on a hippie homestead with his wife and 4 kids. He was really interested in a New Age spirituality, and these things made him kind of an odd candidate for the job, but he came highly recommended by Ira Baldwin, and he had a really good resume, even though he was being a hippie in the middle of the woods. So
the government is so, silly, for this to be, a historical era.
Yeah.
And that's just what he was doing because that's, the CIA was yeah, we're really interested in all of these things, and he's the perfect guy.
Yeah. So he became the new leader of Project Bluebird. Project Bluebird was soon renamed Project Artichoke, and with its new name came a new goal, which was to find a truth serum.
Okay.
So, first, for this truth serum, first they tried weed.
Okay.
Then they tried cocaine.
Okay.
And obviously neither of those worked as an effective truth serum. So after that, they tried LSD, and Gottlieb became absolutely obsessed with LSD. In the sense that he wanted
to,
Did he
try the LSD?
Well, in the sense that he wanted to, test it out, use it with the project, experiment with it, and then also he just really liked doing it.
Okay.
Everybody, this is a side note, everybody working on this project was taking LSD all the time, and the higher up you got in, the ranks, the more they were taking LSD all the time.
That, I can't imagine, how this will turn out.
Yeah. So, they were doing Project Artichoke, and then about a year later, Dwight D. Eisenhower was elected president. And he was...
that guy.
Yeah, your close personal friend, Dwight D. Eisenhower. So he was elected, and he was super close with the Dulles family, so he promoted Alan Dulles one more time to the official director of the CIA. And of course then, the project became the CIA's #1 priority. And it also changed from just researching interrogation techniques to becoming Project MKUltra. That's when the name was changed, so this is Project MKUltra now.
Instead of Project Artichoke?
Instead of Project Artichoke or Project Bluebird.
Okay.
Fun fact, as director of the CIA, Alan Dulles also oversaw the overthrowing of Iran's Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh in 1953.
Yes, he did. I was learning about that a couple weeks ago.
Is that why you said you remembered his name?
No, I just know his name, but it's crazy to think that the CIA, they just have, these seem to me like flights of fancy. We have to do a lot of LSD and also a coup.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the coup was helpful for them at the time.
Yeah. I know about the coup. It had to do also with It's okay. It had to do also with England. Apparently, the UK was
Yeah.
also like, we really want to do this. So I guess
Yes,
they were buddies.
because, and we learned about this. I was really interested to find this out because we also learned about this recently in US history in the class that
Yeah,
this project is for.
yeah,
Because we were just learning about that, and stuff is happening with Iran now, obviously.
yeah.
So we learned about that, and how much do you? I can go on a little bit of a tangent about this if you want me to tell you more about the overthrow.
It's your project. Do whatever you want.
Okay, well, I'll just tell you right now. Basically, the reason Britain or the UK was involved in it is because Iran has like a lot of oil, and a lot of the
That's what it is
oil,
always about.
a lot of the oil companies were run by the UK, and then Iran elected a prime minister who was trying to make it
Yeah,
so that the UK couldn't like take Iran's oil. So he was trying
yeah,
to like up
yeah,
the price or make it so that the British couldn't do that anymore. And so then
yeah.
they did that coup, and they didn't kill Mossadegh, but they put him on permanent house arrest until he died.
Yeah, and they were also gonna instate the new people, but then the new people like fled and they like basically biffed it, and the only reason it succeeded had nothing to do with the US or the UK. It just like happened to be successful and everybody was like, "Yep, we are really proud of ourselves."
Yeah, so that's the kind of leadership that's going on in the CIA at the time.
Yeah.
Specifically, the exact same person.
Yeah.
The actual exact same person who was doing all of that was also running the CIA and Project MKUltra, kind of. So I really heard that gulp that you just did. It was like really loud.
It was my last one.
Okay. So, Project MKUltra was mostly testing out experimental drugs for the purpose of full control over the human mind. They tested these drugs primarily by secretly dosing patients of the many
Oh,
doctors involved in the project. Just normal people. I mean, some people, I will talk about one specific victim of the project.
okay.
Some people did volunteer. I think, like, the freaking Grateful Dead guy or something. I forget who it was. Should I
Cool.
look it up? Yeah, Robert Hunter, the lyricist for the Grateful Dead.
Oh,
Yeah, mostly him.
good for him.
Yeah, so some people really did volunteer. A lot of people were conned or like coerced into volunteering, and then some people
Yeah,
just didn't know that they were even really part of the project. Also,
yeah.
a lot of the people who were being experimented on were prisoners who volunteered with heavy air quotes, but they were prisoners, so they were like
Right.
really coerced into it.
Yeah.
Aside from Alan Dulles' $300,000 signing bonus, the project was paid for through CIA shell corporations and the Office of Naval Research. So, this is another side note. So, you know how a big thing with the Cold War was like a general attitude of paranoia?
Yeah.
There are different theories about what they were really doing with Project MKUltra, but from my perspective, it makes a lot of sense that there was so much paranoia going on in the USA because the people in charge of the biggest CIA project for 20 years were literally doing LSD all the time.
Yeah, and they had so much power that they were just like deciding things and like shaping their own reality based on whatever they wanted, based on nothing.
Isn't that a really interesting thing to think
Yeah.
about? Like,
No,
when
it
we
does.
learn about
It's
the
like
Cold War,
history.
it's like Cold War paranoia. The people in charge of the government were doing LSD all the time. Like,
Yeah,
it
and
is
like
not
white
shocking
men.
to me that it was so paranoid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about some people involved in the project.
Okay, I'm ready. Um, Steps to solving the mystery. Identify people for proof
That
that
the
the mystery
mystery happened.
happens.
Yes.
Yes.
So, in 1952, Alan Dulles' son was struck in the head by a piece of shrapnel while he was serving in the Korean War. He
Okay.
changed a lot because of this brain injury,
Makes sense.
and he started blabbing all over the place, denouncing his father as a quote-unquote Hitler lover.
Dude, good for the kid that he's doing that. I feel bad that he had to like
Yeah.
keep that under wraps until he got a brain injury.
Yes, well, Alados didn't really like that.
Yeah.
And he was looking all over the place for a doctor who could put an end to his son's rants. And in this search, he found Harold Wolf. No
Okay.
word on if he ended up putting a stop to his son's rants,
Okay.
but
I feel bad for that kid.
yeah,
I don't
but
know, maybe he was also mean.
maybe. So, Harold Wolf was a doctor who shared Dulles' fascination with mind control. His main thing was something that he called human ecology, which is very creepy. And that's basically wiping a mind clean and then building it back up from scratch.
That sounds normal and
So,
not dangerous or
that
oppressive.
was what he was really into. And
Cool.
he joined Project MKUltra, and he offered to test all sorts of things on his unconsenting patients using, quote, threats, coercion, imprisonment, isolation, deprivation, humiliation, torture, brainwashing, black psychiatry, hypnosis, and combinations of these with or without chemical agents.
Cool. What is that a quote from?
That is so this is like the name of the source. Proposed plan for implementing redacted.
Is that from the CIA documents?
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's why I think it's so crazy, because obviously there were a lot of conspiracy theories related to this, and it's difficult to do a project about them because, first of all, I have to outline the whole thing that, like, we know happened, which is
Yeah.
already really long. So that's why the video essay was 4 hours long, you know?
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
my project, I'm basically going off of what the CIA said, and I know that, like, in some ways the CIA can't be trusted, but, like, it's crazy to me that there are other conspiracies, because basically everything that I'm telling you, I got from CIA documents.
Yeah, if they're outright saying it.
Yeah, and it's not like they were, like, wanting to release all of this stuff, you know?
No.
Like, it's not like the
Yeah.
CIA was like, oh, yeah, we did that. Like, they don't love that this is released. I mean, at least the people who were doing the project, they weren't super into everybody knowing about it.
Right, but they're
But
outright saying like this is what to
this is what
their
we're doing.
guys.
Yeah, this is, like, what they're
Yeah.
typing out, like, this is our plan.
Yeah, or writing. I don't know. It's the olden days.
So, also, another side note, everybody involved in this project is named Harold. There's, like, 4 Harolds.
Cool.
So that's the first Harold. And then we're about to meet another Harold.
Okay, nice to meet you.
But first we'll talk about Paul Hotch. Paul Hotch was
Mhm.
a therapist involved in Project MKUltra who was secretly experimenting on his patients. One of these patients was a man named Harold Blower, and Hotch would regularly inject him with mescaline and then study his behavior. This
What's
is his
masculine?
client. It's like, in the video it said, like, something related to MDA. It's a
Okay,
hallucinogenic.
so a drug. Yeah, a
It's like an
hallucinogenic drug.
experimental drug.
Okay,
It's
that's
a naturally occurring
evil.
hallucinogenic compound found in certain cacti.
That's so evil.
Yep.
What mean guys?
Yeah, they were all big creeps.
Yeah,
So,
creepy dudes.
so Harold Blower, the client, he didn't know what he was being injected with, and he objected many times to this, like, because obviously he knew he was being injected with something, but it was his
Yeah,
therapist doing it. So
yeah.
he tried to object a lot of times, but he was coerced into continuing to allow the injections. One of Hotch's assistants said, quote, "We didn't know if it was dog piss or what it was we were giving him." One day, Hotch injected Blower with so much mescaline that he overdosed and died.
Oh no!
I know. And
That's horrible.
I have to say, no word on if this was investigated. I could probably figure it out, but from what I know about the other deaths involved in this project, I have to assume that the investigation was just quickly squashed because it was the CIA.
Yeah, justice for that man. Oh my god.
Yeah, I know.
That's crazy.
Another big creepo involved in the project. Sorry. This is so biased. Another man involved in the project was named Harris Isbell, and he ran a, quote, addiction research center, which was actually
Okay.
basically a prison for drug addicts.
Oh.
He would offer recovering patients heroin in exchange for participation
No.
in his experiments.
No.
And, yeah, I know. And these experiments involved, quote, double, triple, and quadruple doses every day for 77 days
Of heroin?
of, um,
Of LSD?
no, of like LSD and experimental stuff. He was paying them
Right.
with heroin
With
to
heroin.
let him use LSD on them.
That's so messed up.
So that 77
Also,
days
that's gonna like taint the results of your study, bro.
yeah, well, also that 77-day quote is a quote from Harris Isbell talking to Sidney Gottlieb. Remember that Sidney Gottlieb is the guy in charge of this project. So Harris is
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm just gonna try and double, triple, quadruple doses every day for 77 days.
77 is a good number, you know.
You good with that, boss?
Yeah, yeah.
Now we're gonna talk about one of the victims, which is a man
Another one of the victims.
Yeah. Which is a man named James Whitey Bulger. Do you recognize the name Whitey Bulger?
Yeah, have I heard that before?
You probably have. Whitey Bulger was a famous crime boss in Boston. He was like an Irish mobster. And he was a very prolific mobster.
Yeah.
While serving time for robbery in the late 1950s, he was subjected to MKUltra experiments. He later wrote about his experience, and I'm going to tell you some of what he said, but before I say it, I will say, just for the sake of being unbiased, he wrote this stuff in a letter to one of the jurors who sent him to jail. So some people say like it's like biased because she did later say like I regret my decision, like I regret my part in sending him to jail. So
even if it's like embellished though,
a little
I
bit
believe
biased. But
this like project still definitely happened, and they were still
Yeah.
definitely doing experiments on like I was gonna say innocent prisoners, but like innocent people who didn't deserve any of this, and you know, crazy
I would
things.
say that even if somebody's not innocent of a crime, they're innocent to the point of like that nobody should go like be experimented on this way. Because I'm gonna tell you what he wrote in this letter. It's a pretty long quote, but I'm just gonna read it.
Okay.
In 1957, while a prisoner at the Atlanta Penitentiary, I was recruited by Dr. Carl Pfeiffer of Emory University to join a medical project that was researching a cure for schizophrenia. For our participation, we would receive 3 days of good time for each month on the project. We were injected with massive doses of LSD-25. Doctors would give us tests to see how we reacted. 8 convicts in a panic and paranoid state. Total loss of appetite, hallucinating. The room would change shape. Hours of paranoia and feeling violent. We experienced horrible living nightmares and even blood coming out of the walls. Guys turned to skeletons in front of me. I saw a camera change into the head of a dog. I felt like I was going insane. The men in suits would be in a room and hook me up to machines, asking questions like, have you ever killed anyone? Would you kill someone? 2 men went psychotic. They had all the symptoms of schizophrenia. They had to be pried loose from under their beds, growling, barking, frothing at the mouth. They put them in a strip cell down the hall. I never saw or heard from them again. They told us we were helping find a cure for schizophrenia. When it was all over, everyone would feel suicidal and depressed, wrung out emotionally. I tried to quit, but Dr. Pfeiffer would appeal to me. Please, you're my best subject, and we're close to finding the cure.
That's so
End
awful.
quote.
That's so. I mean, like, no kidding, he felt all of those things.
Yeah. Also,
this literally is like Stranger Things, first of all. And
I know.
Second of all, so evil, dude.
I think that in Stranger Things, and I'm gonna fact check this right now, but I'm pretty sure that in Stranger Things, it's literally also just called Project MKUltra.
That's funny.
Stranger. But Stranger Things was in the 80s, so I guess maybe they thought that the project, like, went underground more, and then
Yeah,
also
maybe. I
kind of
don't know.
consolidated only to one town.
Yeah. That's so
Okay,
evil.
actually, the project in Stranger Things primarily was inspired by the Montauk Project, which is a different thing. But,
Okay, I've heard of that
which,
one.
yeah, that was in Montauk, New York in the 80s.
Okay.
And that project was more like psychic children, time travel, teleportation. But
Yeah.
it was also really like it was also really
So
inspired
the
by
government
Project
did just
MKUltra. And then also it's like sorry, it's like a big trope in media. Like also I
yeah.
think Bucky in Marvel, that's another example of the trope. So all of that stuff, even though Stranger Things is specifically like inspired by the Montauk Project, which fact check, it was the Montauk Project, but also Project MKUltra.
So the government did kind of just keep doing it underground in different areas.
I guess so.
Cool.
Okay, and then also this AI overview, which just so you know, I'm reading the AI overview, so like don't take this all. This doesn't count as one of my like sources for this project, but also it says it draws from MKUltra.
Okay.
Okay. The next section is called The World's Supply of Acid. Have you heard about, like, they tried to buy or they bought all of the acid in the whole world? The CIA?
Maybe.
Okay. I had heard
Did
of
they?
that, like, once before, but I'll tell you. At this time, Sidney Gottlieb began buying as much LSD as he possibly could from Sandoz Pharmaceuticals, which was still the only organization in the entire world that knew how to make LSD. Aside from
Oh.
stocking up for his personal and project supply, the CIA was also scared that the Soviets were trying to buy up the world's supply of LSD. We don't know if this
And
is
they probably weren't.
well, okay. We don't know if it's true, but it actually definitely is possible. Like,
Oh, okay.
it's not the craziest thing to think that they were doing something similar, like a similar project.
Wow.
They might have also been, we don't know, but it's possible. But at the very least, we know that the CIA definitely believed that they were doing that.
Yeah.
So the CIA decided that they needed to do it first. They thought that they were buying 10 kilograms, but there was a miscommunication and they only ended up with 10 grams, which wasn't nearly enough for their goals. So because of this, they started trying to make LSD themselves in the US.
Where was this company? In like Switzerland or something?
Switzerland, yeah.
Wherever that guy was from? Okay.
So that's what I have for our break.
Do you want to take a break?
Do you want to take a break?
Sure.
Sure.
We'll
Okay,
be right back
we'll be
after
right back.
these
After. Wait,
messages.
I want to do it with you.
Okay.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. We'll be
We'll be right
right
back
back after
after
these
these
messages.
messages.
Goodbye. And we're back.
We're back.
Hello. Welcome back to the party.
When we last left our heroes.
When we last left our heroes, they were heroically trying to figure out what's the deal with the CIA.
And I got food, and I ate it, and we're back now.
Yum.
Where were we?
Okay. Thanksgiving, 1953.
I'm there.
Perfect. Sidney Gottlieb decided that the MKUltra group needed to do some bonding, so he organized a Thanksgiving party at a remote cabin in the woods. The party was super top secret because all of the MKUltra guys were going to be there, and they were all like the most top secret project guys in the country.
Right, we can't have them seen together because then they're like it would imply that they have a reason to know each other and be there.
Yeah.
And that's a secret.
Yes. And the party seemed to be going well until the second night, when Sidney thought that it would be a fun idea to lace the wine with LSD and to drug everyone.
Like on the
He
set
was
of the
their
Titanic.
boss. Oh,
He was their boss?
Yes, Sidney Gottlieb was the guy in charge of the project, remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so he thought it would be a good idea to lace everyone's drink
Uh,
with LSD.
because they don't have HR because it's too secret. HR can't know about them.
One person who was drugged was a man named Frank Olson. Frank Olson, I wrote this. This is what I wrote in my notes. Frank Olson was in a particularly bad headspace at the time because he'd recently developed a conscience.
Right, and that's what they say is that when you take drugs, you have to like be happy going into it or whatever.
What?
They say when you take like drugs, you have to be in a good
Yes,
headspace,
set and
otherwise you'll have a
setting.
bad trip.
Set and setting.
Yeah, set and setting.
So
He
the
recently
setting,
developed a conscience. It's crazy.
the setting was that his boss had drugged him, and the set was, wait, I don't know which
Yeah.
is which.
The set was he felt bad for being
Yeah.
evil.
The set was that he started feeling really guilty about what he was doing in Project MKUltra, and he was also starting to realize that this guilt made him a liability. So he was in a really bad headspace, and
Right, he was like, I'm in danger.
yeah, and he was. So he
Wow.
didn't return to normal after he came down from his high, and
Oh.
because he was part of such a top secret project, there were two huge problems with this. The first was that his mental health was essentially a matter of national security.
Yeah.
And the second was that he couldn't go blabbing about it to a regular therapist because
Yeah.
nobody could know about it. So
But he couldn't talk to a CIA therapist either
well,
because then he would be.
stop trying to guess what's going to happen.
Okay, I won't guess.
Because they actually did send him to another doctor within the project, creepiest guy ever, Harold Abramson.
Another Herald.
Another Harold. This is the
Three little Heralds.
third and final Harold.
They come in threes.
Yep. First of all, something about Harold Abramson was that he was not a psychologist. But they sent him.
What was he?
He was a doctor, but he wasn't a psychologist.
Okay.
But this is the guy that they sent Frank Olson to. Harold Abramson's main thing was that he had a fascination with giving LSD to specifically schizophrenic prepubescent boys.
No.
They had to be specifically children.
Like in Stranger Things.
Yeah. So
no.
What?
That's bad.
Very bad. So Frank Olson went to Harold Abramson with two other guys as his escorts, Robert Lashbrook and Vincent Ruitt. Olson had 3 sessions with Abramson. After the third one, the 3 men went back to a hotel. Olson, Lashbrook, and Ruitt went back to a hotel room together. The next morning, around 2 a.m., Frank Olson was found dead on the sidewalk outside his 10th-story hotel room.
Oh my god, a mystery. Dude.
The police were called, and they found Robert Lashbrook just sitting in the hotel room. They asked him why...
Wait, was Robert the therapist who gave LSD to kids?
No, he wasn't there. Robert Lashbrook was one of his 2 escorts.
Okay, so he just, did he work for the project, or did he just work,
he worked...
Okay.
I think he worked for the project. I'm not sure, but he was a CIA guy because Olson needed, escorts.
So the CIA sent the CIA to bring this guy to his room, and then he's outside of his room on the ground outside.
Yeah, the 3 guys, including Olson, all kind of went together to send Olson to the
But they were, kind of there to, take care of him?
Well, maybe. The police were called, and they found Robert Lashbrook just sitting in the hotel room. They asked him why he didn't call the police, and he said he didn't see the point because Olson was already dead.
Yep, and that's how the police work.
I don't think that's a direct quote, but I don't think that's a direct quote, but he did say, he didn't see the point, which is insane, obviously.
Cool.
Of course, because it was a CIA issue, the police investigation was quickly squashed. When Vincent Ruitt was tasked with breaking the news to Olson's family, he told Eric Olson, Frank Olson's young son, quote, "Your father had an accident. He fell or jumped out a window."
Oh no! He fell or jumped?
Yeah, he fell or jumped. And then also, like, I didn't write this down, but all of the memos and documents and stuff related to this they say, like, fell or jumped.
Okay.
Which is so weird. And then
Yeah.
Eric
I
Olson,
mean, I guess that's true, but to say that to a kid?
yeah. And then Eric Olson, the kid, went on to, like, research this and, like, try to solve his father's death. And
Yeah.
I didn't research this a whole lot, but I think he basically came up with that he was not. This is what the video I watched said, that Eric Olson figured that he didn't, quote, fall or jump, but rather was pushed or shoved out the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, probably by the same guy who told Eric what had happened in the first place.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Because of this incident, the higher-ups in the CIA decided that Gottlieb and his project needed to be reined in a little bit. So they decided to, for the first time, lock up the LSD and make the MKUltra guys ask permission to use it. This is just getting sillier and sillier. Like, the more it goes on, the more it's just gonna get more silly. And
just
I will say, like, the longer this goes on, the less it's the main thing the CIA is doing. The CIA starts doing other things,
right?
And then they get more. The MKUltra gets more other people looking in on it and being like, "Oh, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
So that's kind of gradually happening.
Okay.
So the CIA decided to lock up the LSD for about 5 seconds. Remember that the director of the CIA is still Alan Dulles. So
this was his pet project.
Yeah. So the decision was soon reversed. The decision was soon reversed when it was decided that the project was too important to place literally any restrictions on. I feel like the more this part in the project is when I got in a mood and I was writing moodily.
Because we all know that scientific experiments fail when they have too much oversight.
Absolutely. After this, Gottlieb proceeded to become even more insane. Perhaps
due to the LSD?
I wrote, perhaps due to his prolonged LSD use. A good example of this is a memo that went out before the 1954 CIA Christmas party, stating that everybody should steer clear of the punch because the MKUltra guys were going to be there and they were sure to spike it with LSD.
Just my weird coworkers in accounting. Oh man, accounting's gonna be there. You don't want to drink the pump.
I know. Soon after this, it was New Year's 1955, and Gottlieb decided to make a sort of wish list for the year, which I will read a few highlights from, but I have to click the link to it, so give me a second. Okay, there are a lot of bullet points, but I'll just read a few of them. So this was Gottlieb's kind of New Year's resolution / wishes for the project. This is stuff he was trying to, like, get his hands on.
Okay.
Substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. Substances which increase the efficiency of mentation and perception. Materials which will prevent or counteract the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Materials which will promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Materials which will produce...
He just thought of that. He was like,
Materials which will produce the signs and symptoms of recognized diseases in a reversible way so that they may be used for malingering, etc. Etc.
Okay.
Materials which will render the induction of hypnosis easier or otherwise enhance its usefulness. Substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing.
Okay.
Materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use.
Oh.
I think I'm just going to read all of them. Physical methods of producing shock and confusion over extended periods of time and capable and surreptitious use. Substances which produce physical disablement, such as paralysis of the legs, acute anemia, etc.
Poison.
Yeah. Specific poisons.
You're looking for poison.
Substances which will produce pure euphoria with no subsequent letdown. I think that one was just for him.
Yeah.
Substances which will alter personality structure in such a way that the tendency of the recipient to become dependent in such a way that the tendency of the recipient to become dependent upon another person is enhanced.
Okay.
Sorry, it's difficult to read this because it's like a
It's an
scanning of
old-timey.
an actual
Yeah.
old document. So it's
Yeah.
like, it was like typewritered.
Typewritten.
Yep.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah, there are a lot more actually. But that's basically
Yeah.
what it is. So that was kind of his New Year's wish list.
He's just a cutie. He just has like he wants a pony.
What?
His wish list.
Oh, his wish list. Yeah. I want a
Yeah.
pony. I would like a pony. I would like,
Materials with which
I'd
a
love a
pony
really good drug that makes me feel really happy. I'd like to torture everybody
with
in the
no consequences. I would like a drink that makes
I'd like to
everyone sad
torture
and me
every
happy.
Chinese person. Another thing that happened at the time was that Eli Lilly finally cracked the code to LSD, and the US government started producing it at an industrial scale.
No way.
Now that they were producing their own, Project MKUltra had so much LSD that they were able to start doing clinical trials with it. They outsourced this research to schools and hospitals as sort of CIA fronts. This outsourcing, however, meant that the guys at MKUltra had to get things approved and that they had a lot more oversight than they would have liked. So Gottlieb decided to start a front of his own. Thus was born the Society for the Investigation of Human Ecology. If you couldn't tell by the human ecology thing, Gottlieb started this front with Harold Wolff. Remember that human ecology is what Wolff called his project of completely breaking down people's minds and building them back up to his liking. And they would do
once
this
again, so messed up. Crazy.
Absolutely. And they would do this with various experimental drugs and torture methods. We don't know exactly what they were up to because of all the destroyed files, but one thing that they did try to do was that they were trying to brainwash Chinese Americans to go to China and commit acts of sabotage. Now we're going to talk about a man named George Hunter White.
Okay.
George Hunter White was a, quote, tough guy narcotics agent sent in to show the nerds at MKUltra how stuff goes down in the streets.
Did he have a YouTube channel?
Well, that was a quote from the YouTube video that I watched.
Oh, he sounds like he would have lots of young followers on Instagram.
George White's thing was that he had a bunch of fake safe houses where he would dose hippies and drug addicts and then study their behavior.
No!
But don't worry, because all of the drugs that he was testing on them, he was also using on himself.
I'm worried. That's worrying.
He decided to set up a new safe house in conjunction with Project MKUltra. They called this new project, get this, Operation Midnight Climax.
Cool.
And do you want to know why it was named that?
Yes.
Because it was a brothel.
Cool.
It was a brothel where the sex workers were trained to dose people with acid to see if they could get information out of them.
Whoa.
Now, remember that this wasn't even to get actual information out of them. It was just to see if that would be something that they could do if they decided to do this project with people that actually had any important information to give.
Wow. So much effort.
I know.
Like, it really, so much effort to the extent that maybe they're just playing around.
Yeah. Everybody was a big pervert. Everybody who was working on this project was a big, creepy pervert.
Yeah. Oh, that's so
It's
evil.
cute. Do you want an example of that? George
Yeah.
Hunter White had his own secret room where he could watch the whole thing while sitting on a portable toilet and drinking martinis from a pitcher.
God, evil organization. Made up of ridiculous people who
I'm
are not
having
real.
a difficult time making this an unbiased presentation, I think because
Okay.
of the way that
Because of
it's
drinking
partially the way I
martinis
wrote
from a
it,
toilet.
partially because I'm doing this with you, partially because of the things that are, like, actually
Should I be less
in the...
biased?
I think it's fine.
Okay. The
I just
drinking
wanted to...
martinis on a toilet while
I just wanted to say that.
voyeuring is... Okay, continue.
At this time, 1957, Sidney Gottlieb moved to Munich. During his time there was a sharp uptick of people being kidnapped by the CIA and being subjected to illegal interrogation techniques without the knowledge of the German authorities.
Yeah, that
So
makes sense.
that's kind of the whole story there. He came back just in time for the CIA to be handed over to a man named John McCone as the new director.
What happened to the Olsen, is his name?
No, that's the guy. Olsen is the guy who died from falling or jumping.
What happened
Alan
to
Dulles?
Alan Dulles?
Why did Alan Dulles stop being the director of the CIA? I assume he just retired. Oh, this is interesting. Alan Dulles was forced to resign as CIA director in November of 1961 by President JFK, primarily due to the catastrophic failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion.
Okay, so first of all, cite that. Second of all,
I absolutely will.
everything is connected. It's
Yeah.
JFK again.
Dude. I
Dude.
did my other History of Anything project on.
Dude.
Alan Dulles was forced to resign as CIA director in November of 1961 by President John F. Kennedy, primarily due to the catastrophic failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion of April of 1961. The botched Cuba invasion, which was planned under Eisenhower but executed under JFK, destroyed confidence in Dulles' leadership and prompted investigations that faulted the CIA.
Yeah, and JFK was like really mad about it too.
Yeah, he was held directly responsible for the failed invasion.
Dulles was?
Yeah.
Wow.
By JFK.
Well, obviously he was doing other things than LSD, but...
Yeah, and then Dulles was replaced with John McCone.
Okay.
John McCone was more of a normal guy. He wasn't... This is another thing that's biased, and I'm just gonna say that it's biased now, and it's a quote from the video, which... I will say, for this, as a school project, that video was not my only source. I understand that it was biased, and it helped me to get some other sources, but I still have some quotes of it in my presentation. Because,
and get, like, the structure.
Yeah. I have some quotes from it because I think that they're funny. Because this says, John McCone was a normal guy, preferring to stay in his lane of overthrowing democratically elected socialists.
Classic. A la Mossadegh.
Yeah. He wasn't super into MKUltra and their freaky research, I wrote. So he ordered a full audit of the project and decided that it needed a lot more oversight and a much narrower scope. Surprisingly, Gottlieb actually agreed with him, saying that Project MKUltra's findings lacked practical applications, so they shut it down in 1964.
Whoa!
It was replaced with a new project called Project MK Search, which, again, had a lot more oversight and a much narrower scope. So they weren't doing all of this Operation Midnight Climax stuff. Gottlieb spent the rest of his career at the CIA coming up with kooky ways to assassinate leaders of other nations. I really was in a mood when I wrote this. So, have you heard of the thing with Castro and the poisoned pen idea?
Yes.
Gottlieb came up with
that. But for our audience.
Oh, yes.
What was Castro and the poisoned pen?
The idea was basically that they wanted to assassinate Castro with a poisoned pen. I feel like
Makes
that
sense.
sums it up pretty well. But Gottlieb, along with, I mean, he wasn't the only one doing it. He had kind of a group of people, but they came up with that idea. Another idea was that they wanted to assassinate Patrice Lumumba with botulism-laced toothpaste.
Wow.
And then one more. So Sidney Gottlieb and his CIA guys,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, figured that the source of Castro's appeal was his beard. Now, stay with me.
Okay. Okay.
So,
I'm with you.
people liked Castro because he had a really nice beard. So, they came up with a powder that would make him go bald if it was put in his shoes.
Did it work?
Except, they spent so much energy making the powder that they forgot to figure out a way to get their hands on Castro's shoes, so it didn't work. Actually, none of the ideas worked. None of these ideas worked.
It's just so not real. During the break, we were talking about how it's not like this is real history.
Yeah.
But it's so absurd, and it's just a random group of men who are doing things because they want to, and it's.
But they have,
But it's the
connections.
government.
They have so many connections.
It's just so absurdly not real.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about the files. In 1973, the CIA had gone through a few more changes in leadership. The director at the time, Richard Helms, was fired by Nixon because he didn't suppress investigation into Watergate. So, once he was fired, he called up his old buddy, Sidney Gottlieb, and they had sort of a midnight meeting where they decided to destroy all of the files relating to projects Bluebird, Artichoke, and MKUltra. They managed to destroy sorry?
What about MK? What about the new
MK Search?
Is that still happening?
Yeah, MK Search ended in 1973 when all of this stuff was happening. They just had I would say they just had a lot more oversight, and the people who were running the CIA at the time weren't the same people who were, like, doing this specific project anymore.
Right, so they were, like, my weird coworkers and probably got absorbed into, or, like, overshadowed by the, like, foot powder and poison pen and, all that kind of stuff.
This is what it says. Sidney Gottlieb was in charge of Project MKUltra for nearly its entire duration, from its inception in 1953 until its retirement in 1973.
Yeah.
So Gottlieb was, I believe, still in charge of it, but it just didn't really end up going anywhere. Like, he came up with ideas, but it wasn't as much practical application, or, like, I don't know. He was trying to find practical applications because that's why they ended it. But it just didn't really end up going anywhere.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's
ridiculous.
Some people think it's still going on, but it really just didn't end up going anywhere. I don't believe. So, they were trying to destroy all the files relating to this project, and they managed to destroy about 90 to 95% of them, but their covert activity didn't remain buried for long. Because of Watergate, the new CIA director, James Schlesinger, called for a complete accounting of any illegal activities within the CIA. These files were all compiled into something that they called the Family Jewels. And in 1974, these were leaked to a journalist named Seymour Hersh, who then published an article, quote, "Huge CIA operation reported in U.S. against anti-war forces, other dissidents in Nixon years." In 1976, 2 years later, a man named John Marks was doing his own digging into projects Bluebird, Artichoke, and MKUltra, and he found 7 boxes of a total of 20,000 pages of files that Helms and Gottlieb had missed. Basically,
imagine how many papers they burned if they missed 20,000.
I know. We don't know exactly what percent they actually did destroy, because they destroyed it. So we don't know how much was originally there, but there is a lot missing that we don't know. We still have 20,000 pages of files. Basically, Helms and Gottlieb had destroyed everything except for the financial documents, which were stored differently. So that's how we know all this stuff. So John Marks finds this, and he then wrote and published a book called The Search for the Manchurian Candidate, which is still one of the best accounts of the story of MKUltra and was one of my main sources for this project.
Yeah.
So that was around 1976. While that's going on, Gottlieb was living peacefully, not knowing that any of that was going on. He'd retired in 1973 at 54 years old, and he was having a grand old time traveling the world with his hippie wife.
He's still around at this point. That's crazy.
Yeah. Until one day, the US government finally tracked him down while he was working at a hospital in India. They wanted to know what he'd been up to with all of that MKUltra stuff, and why he'd destroyed all those files. So they offered him full immunity in exchange for his testimony. And he headed back to the US. Gottlieb said that the destruction of the files had nothing to do with covering up illegal activity. He gave 3 reasons for why he destroyed them. The whole thing is a quote. 1, as with the other files which were destroyed in a continuing and important CIA program of files destruction to handle a burgeoning paper problem, there was a constant pressure to retire files and to destroy those files which had no further use. 2, with my retirement and that of others connected with this work, and with the drug work over and inactive for several years, these files will have no constructive use to the agency. They were the kind of sensitive files that were capable of being misunderstood by anyone not thoroughly familiar with their background.
Red flag.
You might misunderstand us and think that what we were doing was bad, but you don't know. You weren't there.
It's just, you're wrong. You can't see the whole picture.
Okay. 3, the files contained the names of prominent scientists, researchers, and physicians who had collaborated with us and who had been assured that their relationship with the CIA would be kept forever confidential. I felt that the careers and the reputations of these people would be severely damaged or ruined, for instance in today's climate of investigations, if their names and CIA connection were made public. I felt a special, deep, personal obligation to respect this assurance and confidentiality, and to make as certain as I could that these particular sources would never be revealed.
Oh no, my white man.
End quote.
My body.
So the first one is that we were
destroying
files all the time, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, what are files for? They're for having on file.
They're for having files. They're for
That's just ridiculous.
They're not for destroying them.
They're not like, oh, we're done using the file.
Also,
the point of the file is to have it when you're not using it.
Also,
that's a record.
Like a burgeoning paper problem, I understand maybe destroying some files that were totally not important at all. But Gottlieb and Helms had a midnight meeting where they decided by themselves to destroy them. You have to at least.
Also, what does a burgeoning paper problem mean? Are you running out of places to store them?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I just feel like if you're gonna destroy the
buy
files,
a library.
And the reason for that is all of these reasons, which for you are valid reasons, then why wouldn't you talk to your boss and say that they were?
If you weren't lying, why did you not lie?
Why did you have to have a midnight conspiracy about it?
Because it was a lie.
Fine. The second point, which we already talked about, they were the kind of sensitive files that were capable of being misunderstood by anyone not thoroughly familiar with their background. That is just...
There was bad stuff in them, and I didn't want you to read it.
Yeah. And then the third one is just, cancel culture. You guys would be mad.
Dudes in 1960 were ranting about cancel culture.
1977, I think.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So,
it's very nice of him to respect his colleagues, but his colleagues are also the problem.
Gottlieb did also face a number of lawsuits from victims of the project, but they all ended up being dismissed. And he enjoyed the rest of his life until he died in 1999 at the age of 80, facing absolutely no repercussions from his torture project. So, the big mystery now is
I'm ready.
What was in all those destroyed files?
That is a great point. The
They
names of victims?
So the CIA's stance is that the project was a complete failure and that it didn't accomplish anything. And this is
I see.
and there are some, I mean, in a way, I can see that. Like, in a way, I agree with it because, I mean, the things that they were trying to do were crazy.
Right.
And
And the
I
right.
still think that they accomplished a lot, but I don't think that
Exactly.
they accomplished a lot in, like, destroying people's lives, but that may not have been what they were trying to do, so the CAA was like,
Yeah.
well, it was a complete failure. And that's
Yeah.
backed up
From like
by
their perspective.
Gottlieb's testimony, the testimony of John Gittinger, who was a man that worked on a project, and I'm gonna read a quote from that for you. Quote, by 1961 and 1962, it was at least proven to my satisfaction that brainwashing, so-called, is some kind of esoteric device. Where drugs or
Makes sense.
mind-altering kinds of conditions and so forth were used, did not exist. Even though the Manchurian Candidate as a movie really set us back a long time because it made something impossible look plausible. But by 1962 and 1963, the general idea that we were able to come up with is that brainwashing was largely a process of isolating a human being, keeping him out of contact, and putting him under long stress in relationship to interviewing and interrogation. They could produce any change that way without having to resort to any kind of esoteric means. End quote.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's along
Right. They
with
didn't.
along with a few other things which I'll get to later, but that's kind of what the CIA is saying. Well, this is why it didn't accomplish anything. But from my perspective, that is just saying, well, we didn't do mind control. We didn't succeed in doing mind control. But
Right.
in this testimony, he literally admits we didn't need to
Yeah.
because because brainwashing is all of the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah. We didn't invent any new form of like any new thing that would be successful because we did the thing in trying to discover a new different thing, and we already have it, and so to that extent it wasn't successful because we already did it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There are two other memos which also back that up, but I'm not going to read them to you. And then
Okay.
another thing is, like now, during the operation of Project MKUltra, the CIA was working closely with Israeli military intelligence, Mossad. And a story from that is that Mossad kidnapped a Palestinian child and attempted to brainwash him for 3 months, trying to get him to kill Yasser Arafat, who was the former president of the Palestinian National Authority. It didn't work, however, as the kid turned himself into the police within 5 hours of being released.
Oh, the
Now,
poor child.
this is something that I heard in the research of this, but it's been very difficult to find a source. Everything that I look up on Google has a different answer for me.
A mystery. What did you hear?
I honestly feel like, well, I heard what I just told you. I
Oh,
found that.
okay.
I found
But
that
you
in
can't find a
something.
source for it?
But I can't, I found one thing, which I think is good. But, it's interesting because every time I looked this up, like, the answers would be completely different on, like, the Google AI. Like, the answers would be completely different, and a lot of them were like, "No, that never happened. That absolutely never happened. The CIA was never working with Mossad. They're still not working with Mossad. Mossad never kidnapped any Palestinian children." They, like, a lot of the answers that Google was telling me were like that. And I know that's not true because I did find a source
Yeah.
from
Well, that makes
the Jerusalem Post.
that's so interesting. I mean, it makes sense because, like, obviously, Google doesn't want to publish that.
And this source is This says, in one case in 1968, a Swedish-born Navy psychologist in Israel came up with an idea to brainwash Palestinians to get them to kill Yasser Arafat, whose terrorists had just begun targeting Israel. One man named Fatki was brought in and trained for 3 months using psychosis. And this says man, but the story I heard was that it was a young boy, and I can't find anything else
Well, I
to...
mean, that's part of what news
I know, it's
is
really...
like at what age are you a man, and how does that change based on if they like you or not?
Yeah. So that is a bit to back up that they didn't accomplish anything, because Mossad tried and they totally failed.
And failed, right? So they would have done something with what they had
Yeah.
if they had anything.
Yeah. However, we must also consider where this information is coming from, which is the
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah.
Many people think that the CIA was more than happy to be made a laughingstock in order to distract from what they were actually doing with the project. And there are a lot of different theories on what they were actually doing. But a lot of people think the CIA is coming out saying, oh yeah, we didn't accomplish anything. And some people are like, well, why would they say that? Because it's like so embarrassing that they were just doing
Yeah.
bullshit for so long. But some
Yeah, but
people
the
think that
director of
they
the
were...
CIA now is a different guy, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, and some people think
Yeah.
that, like, they were more than happy to be made a laughingstock in order to distract from what they were actually doing. This
Yeah.
theory claims that the project was not a failure, but that its goals were more realistic than mind-controlled secret agents. Perhaps all of that stuff was quickly abandoned, never really taken seriously anyways, or perhaps it was a cover to make the agency look silly in order to hide the project's real objective, developing more effective methods of torture.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that my perspective, in my opinion, is I don't think that the CIA would have like thought ahead enough and been the like authoritative enough to lie about the project since the very beginning. Um, like I like they did like what I was talking about with Mossadegh, with the CIA coup in Iran in what like the 70s? I don't know.
The 50s.
The 50s. Yeah, right, the 50s. Like that did happen, and they did like mess it up, like they did a bad job.
Yeah.
And obviously the CIA wants to be understood as like a very powerful government organization. And I think it's giving them too much credit to be like they were lying about it since the very beginning, like as if they had it planned out and as if they weren't just doing ridiculous stuff.
I agree.
Like I think all of those ridiculous things did happen, and I think that they like were excited about their mind control ideas or whatever, but I also think that it was torture, and they were like, yeah, like we're happy about this because it's torture.
I do think that
they
were coming up with ways to torture people, but I don't think that
exactly.
they were trying to hide that.
Yeah, that wasn't like
I mean, they were
that.
because they destroyed all those files, but I don't think that they're like,
They weren't hiding
saying
that
this
from
is what we're
themselves.
doing so that
Yeah,
people
that
don't know what
wasn't.
we're actually doing.
That
When the
was
thing
like
that they're
neither here
saying
nor.
that they're doing is
Yeah,
also bad. I don't know. I think that
exactly.
this is a thing that people say with like the government now, which is like, I don't know. I didn't write. My script is done. Like that's the whole story. So now I'm just coming up with things to say from my own brain. So it's more difficult. But this is like a thing with the government now. I feel like some people think that obviously the government right now is very silly in a lot of ways and very,
Yeah.
I mean, very bad in a lot of ways, but also like silly in a lot of ways. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I guess I just think that like I've heard people say that the way that the US government is acting is because they're trying to hide things and there's like secret puppeteers who are making Trump do things, and I kind of think that that it is true that the people running the government are crazy and not
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's both, and I think the same with Project MKUltra and with the
Yeah.
CIA.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, they weren't like hiding the fact that they were doing torture from themselves. That was neither here nor there. But like, I would be willing to believe, like, when I'm like 70, if it like comes out that they were like doing evil psychic experiments, that our government was doing evil psychic experiments that like were descendants of what Project MKUltra was, like, I can totally believe that. And also, I think that all the ridiculousness with Project MKUltra was just because that's how they want to be, and they're like,
Or that's
they're
just
just
how
going
they
to be how they want
were
to
as
be.
people.
Exactly. And like, what was the one in the 80s in New York? Montauk. The Montauk experiments. Like, what do you mean? Like, they're still doing it? I mean, they did that, and they'll continue to do the same thing forever. But also, it's always new. It's not like they didn't plan it to that extent. And you can cut this if you want. Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I'm still there.
Okay. I
I'll
have
keep
another
it.
thing to
I'll
say.
keep it.
Well, I have another thing that you can cut.
Oh, okay.
And you can cut this if you want, but like what you were saying about the current government, like, I think that they are trying to hide things. I also think that they are just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's all those things together, like,
I think you're getting to the point of what I'm trying to say, which is that my opinion on this is that it makes total sense that people think that they were researching more effective ways for torture, but I don't think that they were doing a big cover-up about it. I think some people were, like, not trying to admit that, and they definitely did destroy files, but I think, like, those things are both true.
Yeah, and I think that they do cover things up, but the things that they cover up are the same things that they're doing anyway.
I don't really understand.
Like, if it came out that they were doing an experiment that was more horrible with more people, like, the details of that are different, and like, there's more victims. But it's also the same thing that they've always been doing. And also, I was thinking about.
I believe what the CIA released.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I believe these memos and stuff. People think that
Yeah,
they're,
and
like,
I also think there's more to it,
lies
but
to
the stuff
cover
that.
up. I don't think that they're lies to cover up
No,
at all.
no,
I think that they're true.
no. And people. And I also believe that there's more that we didn't see, but the more is like details. It's like
more
this
of the
other
same.
horrible
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And two things can be true at once. Like Trump and Iran and Epstein. When people say that Trump is doing whatever he's doing in Iran, like doing war doesn't even feel like the right word, but doing evil things in Iran. And he's doing that for oil or for money or for like the countries that he's friends with or to distract from the Epstein files. And those things are all true. And it's right in front of you. It's right,
Yeah.
Anyway, you can cut that. That was the
no.
thing I was gonna say.
No, it's okay. I think that, like, about cutting it, I think that I don't want to cut it because a little bit I feel like I shouldn't say all this in, like, a school project or I'm being a tinfoil hat person, but, like, I think that it's important to connect this because this is all stuff that's been released, and I think it's important to see where it is in now. I think that's what the point of a history class is. So I'm not going to cut any of this.
Because they're all descendant
because it's all connected and it's all
it's the same power.
The same.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Thanks for that.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for that. That was great.
Doing this with me.
This was so much fun. We should do it again.
Yeah, you have to come up with a mystery.
Okay.
Okay, bye.